Good evening, everyone. I am Chris, back with another movie review, and I am here to talk about Weapons, which is the 2025 mystery horror film directed by Cregger. I was actually racking my brain to see if I'd seen Zach's previous film, which is Barbarian, and after the film had finished, I was doing a little bit of reading. I was like, "Oh yeah, I did watch that movie," and now I know that having seen Weapons fresh out the cinema about half hour ago, actually. Um, I can definitely see some comparisons to his previous movie, and we're going to talk about it. This film is going to be incredibly difficult to talk about because it's one that I don't want to spoil. Like, the whole crux of this film, everything rests on this movie based on its premise and the mystery that it creates. I did actually say in my post earlier, and I stand by it, this was probably my most anticipated film of the year. Hasn't been a great year for films, I must admit. There haven't been many, all the films that have come out this year, there have been no stayers that you'll go, yes, I will watch that again. And really, sort of like the lost art form of the movie trailer, this sort of took me back to those days where the whole point of a trailer is to hook you. And the trailer didn't give loads away, which I loved. The main thing it was selling was this mystery. And it reminded me of something like kind of Twilight Zone a little bit, maybe sort of Stranger Things season one kind of vibes to it. Almost like this fairy tale like story. You could imagine it like I don't know, like a Hansel and Gretel or, Brothers Grimm kind of story. And it hooked me. As soon as I saw that trailer, I actually think, where did I hear about this the first time? I think I was watching Mauler's channel, or I was watching like the Critical Drinker or something like that, Open Bar, something like that. And I think Mauler mentioned it there that, Weapons looks really good, and to check the trailer out for it. So I think I did based on his recommendation. And yeah, I was hooked. And since that day I watched the trailer, I had to see this film, and I stayed away from spoilers. I just needed to know, like spiritually, I needed to know how this movie paid off. Sorry. We got Carl in the comments who went to see this earlier as well. Carl says, so what did you think? I'm torn. I really enjoyed the film as a whole, but that ending was like a comedy. We are exactly on the same page, my friend. Exactly. And I was hoping over the course of this review, me talking it out and having a conversation with yourself, that we'll be able to get to the bottom of this. Because, yeah, like the movie trailer, it actually reminded me of. Do you remember that old trailer for Psycho? And it was Alfred Hitchcock, and he's in like the house that the film set in, and the motel, and he goes to all the key locations, and he's just like, something happens in this bathroom that's like really crucial to this grisly story. And he's sort of methodically going from room to room, maybe a little bit hokey now, but it's quite a unique trailer. And you're probably watching that back when the movie came out. It's like, well, I want to know. I want to know what's going to happen. And that's essentially the premise of this film, in that at 2:17 a.m., all of the kids in this one classroom at this one school all disappear into the night. They there's cameras of them like running out into the night, leaving their houses, and just disappearing, doing this very sort of creepy otherworldly run where they sort of like run with their arms outstretched like that. And everyone's pointing fingers in the neighborhood. It's this small suburban town. There's one student left in the classroom who didn't disappear, and the school teacher. So everyone starts arguing, all of the parents. There's a huge upheaval in the town, and that was it. And then creepy weird shit happens based on the trailer, in all like real quick little flashes as the trailer ramps up to a climax. And I was sold. Really, really excited to see this film today. And the first half of the film had me. It had me. I think it was a great pace to it. I loved the structure of it as well. It felt very, as I mentioned, like a fairy tale, but like a storybook almost. That it's the film's sort of broken into chapters, and we go to all different sort of like character perspectives of all this big interconnecting story, and then all of the plot lines converge towards the end, and we start to get a broader picture as to what's going on, as to why all of these kids have disappeared. And I'm not going to give anything away, at least not right now. I'm going to try and keep this review as vague as possible. If you've seen the film, it's going to be a difficult review to talk about. I might do a spoiler section at the end, but don't worry about that for right now. Positives. I thought the acting across the board was fantastic. Josh Brolin, Julia Garner, Alden Ehrenreich, who I haven't seen probably since Solo: A Star Wars Story. Um, great performances, and the mystery had me. I was on board with the movie. The cinematography was pretty nice. There are some ropey moments in the film. There's one moment in particular where a character's trying to open a door real quick, quite frantically, and it almost looks like it's shot with like a webcam or something. Like it's this like really kind of low quality. I don't know if you see it. It kind of stuck out to me a little bit from the rest of the cinematography in the film. If you know the scene I'm talking about. So yeah, I was on board with all these storylines, and I was trying to, like any good mystery story, you're trying to piece it all together. You're wondering where it's going. There's all of these knowing little clues that are happening as the story amounts, as the mystery builds. And I'd stayed away from most reviews in terms of, reviewers that I trust, like video reviews. I stayed away from all of them. I did see some like taglines and some comments saying, don't like the payoff's really good. If you've seen Barbarian, the director's previous film, again, that was a film that had an incredible premise. I thought a very good, you've got a good foundation for a mystery, and it's building all the way through. And then at about the halfway point, the film sort of takes a tonal shift, and there's almost like a tonal whiplash, and it becomes quite, dark humor, almost like a Sam Raimi movie, very tongue-in-cheek, dare I say cartoonish in some points as well. And some people are going to be on board for that. And it does make for an entertaining film experience. The audience was packed tonight, by the way, and people were, they were getting scared at the scenes that you should get scared at. But there was a lot of funny scenes in this, and that's what the trailer doesn't sell you on, is that I feel like the trailer for this film sets you up for a tone, a mood for the film that's going to be consistent. And the first half of the movie does that. And then there's one moment that's going to happen, probably at about the midway point or just before the midway point, and you're either going to be completely on board with it and be invested in the mystery and all of the potentially supernatural things that happen, or you're going to go, okay, this is jumped the shark now. I'm taking a step back. This is what are we doing here? And I feel like I'm kind of in that latter camp. Did I have a good time watching the film? Yes, I did. But I feel like by the end of this film, when all's said and done, after a very abrupt ending as well, I will say that it became a complete farce for me. And all of the intrigue that I felt like we were building at the beginning was lost. And I do disagree with some of the reviews that I had seen saying that the payoff was fantastic. A lot of these films that are built on some kind of intriguing idea like this. Another film that I'll compare it to, 10 Cloverfield Lane from quite a number of years ago now. The film that was probably never meant to be a Cloverfield spin-off or spiritual successor, or whatever it ended up becoming. Great premise. This very claustrophobic sort of, people getting held under house arrest against their will. John Goodman, very creepy performance in that film. And you're with it. And it's a great journey throughout the film, but the payoff to that film fucking sucks. And I'm not going to say the payoff to this film is as bad as 10 Cloverfield Lane was, but it didn't hit me. I was kind of checked out of this at one point. It sort of reminds me of Lost a little bit as well. Now, I've always got a soft spot in my heart for Lost, but, the journey's great, but the destination, no, not quite so much. Carl says, without giving anything away, but you are never really told the reason why the children were wanted. Yes, it's very vague. And speaking of vague, I'm going to try and be very vague right now, so I'm not going to give anything away. Once we find out the reason behind the children's disappearance, there is very little explanation in regards to the law, I suppose I could say. with the situation, and to how the person or people will benefit from such a thing. We get told like a blanket statement, but we're sort of left reeling like, okay, well, what does that entail? The answer kind of raises more questions which I don't think at all get answered. And I like my films to have a sense of resolution at the end, whether that be a sinister resolution, whether it be sort of open-ended, maybe like John Carpenter's The Thing, like an ambiguous ending, sort of like Inception, or whether it does reach like a satisfying, they all lived happily ever after kind of thing. And I don't feel like this film does it. It almost felt like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which was done as a joke. You know how they notoriously ran out of budget on that film, and they had to just like cut it dead. It sort of felt like that. But yeah, I would have liked more of a resolution to the film, I guess is what I'm saying. And it does definitely stray into the hokey territory. As I say, like, my audience was laughing. It becomes a cartoon. There are some shots towards the end, the framing of the shot, that is straight up cartoonish, that you've seen, and it's kind of like tropes that you've seen in a number of things before. Breezy says, thanks for trying to avoid spoilers. I still need to check it out. I'd say it's worth checking out. Across the board, this film seems to have critical acclaim, which I did see, and maybe that did get me jazzed up a little bit more to go and see this film today. And I'm not going to say it's a bad film. It ain't a bad film by any stretch of the imagination. There are moments of suspense, like, creepy houses. The music's quite sinister. There are some jump scares thrown in there as well. But for the most part, I felt like the jump scares were earned after creating that sense of tension. I really like some of the characters as well. And again, I'm not going to go into massive specifics on this, but specifically like Julia Garner's character, who plays Justine Gandy, who's the school teacher. We really get a sense of that and throughout the course of her story, throughout her chapter, if you will, in the story, we learn through her actions, but also through little knowing things that characters are saying, that she's had a very troubled past, that there's shades of grey to this character, that she has her own demons. And I think these are performed fantastically from the actress. I think she did a really, really good job. But this sense of paranoia, this sense of isolation, and that all eyes are on her, and that, like the mob's coming after her essentially, because all of the parents are looking for an explanation as to why their children have disappeared, and they're all pointing their fingers and coming after her specifically. So there's moments where she becomes a shut-in. She's sort of like looking over her shoulder at night. She may turn to like substance abuse or like alcohol, to try and just get herself off to sleep, or to try and escape everything. And I thought these were all interesting foundations for the character, definitely. You've also got Josh Brolin in the film, who's always solid. Apparently, this role was originally going to go to Pedro Pascal, because we really needed him in another fucking movie. And actually, that just occurred to me that Julia Garner's the new Silver Surfer, isn't she, in the new Fantastic Four with Pedro Pascal? But I think it was unsurprisingly, his scheduling conflicted with this movie, because he's in everything. So the role went to Josh Brolin, but he's always solid. He's always solid, and he has that good, like, stern, determined quality about him, that very intimidating, imposing quality to him. What I will say about this, Brinsley mentions the Red Letter Media review. I stayed away from that. I love their stuff, and I will be watching it after I'm done on this review here. I think they did love Barbarian, though, because I remembered seeing their review on that, and I really didn't care for that. As I mentioned, like, I love the first half. I love the setup for the mystery, but then it becomes fucking stupid. So yeah, there's just like questions that don't get answered, and then there are sort of plot cul-de-sacs, which I feel, now I've seen the whole film, they didn't really feel like they were leading to anything. Specifically, you've got Alden Ehrenreich's character, who may have had a thing with Julia Garner's character at some point in a previous life, and there's a whole subplot with like Alden Ehrenreich's new woman who he's with, and he cheats on her at one point, and you think that's going to lead to somewhere, but then that storyline's kind of stopped dead in its tracks. That doesn't really go anywhere. There's stuff involving like a little thread that a moment of sort of intrigue that happens at the police department in the story, and there's not really much of a payoff to that because the story kind of veers off in this very, very different, cartoonishly, I guess I can say supernatural. I think that's still vague enough. Supernatural way. And I don't know, whenever you've got a mystery like this, it's the problem of the mystery box. And oh God, I'm raising the specter of J.J. Abrams here, but no matter how intriguing you make something, the argument sometimes is there that the payoff is never going to be fulfilling because you in your mind have elevated it. You're trying to answer this question. It's one of the reasons that Lost was so powerful for this for a number of seasons, was because they kept setting up new intriguing things that for the audience to speculate on. And speculate we did, and we came up with all these crazy theories and everything, and it was a really, really fun time. But then over the years, we realized that J.J. Abrams shtick gets old very, very quickly, and you're essentially setting something up without thought or concerns for the payoff. And I'm not going to say that, Zach Cregger is as bad as J.J. Abrams. He's not, and he clearly had this idea. This film was directed, written by him, and produced by him as well. I think he even collaborated on the soundtrack for this thing as well. So there's a clear idea in mind with this. I just feel like the outcome is kind of the lowest common denominator. There are some clues, very written out plainly clues as to where this movie's heading. Once you've seen it and you kind of think back throughout the rest of the movie, you'll be like, oh, okay, that, so there's the seeds of it there, I suppose. But really, this is going to be a complete Marmite film. It genuinely is. Like, if someone says, oh, I watched Weapons and I was massively entertained and I thought it was brilliant, I thought it was hilarious, I really like, I'll be like, great, I'm glad you had a good time. And I had a decent time too. I just kind of wish this movie was something else for the end of it. Or if at least picked a consistent tone. And I don't feel like it did at the end. It got a little bit too slapsticky, a little bit too self-indulgent, maybe. And I feel like it lost a lot of the impact that this film initially started up and was maintaining that not pace. I was going to say, it's maintaining the momentum. That's the word. God, I'm getting old. I keep forgetting my words. It maintains that momentum of that intrigue up until a point, and then stuff happens. Yeah, let me just backtrack through some of the comments. Brinsley says, since you mentioned it, you should do a review for The Thing. Yeah, I'd love to go back to that movie. I mean, I've seen that movie countless times. I absolutely adore it. It's probably my second favorite horror film of all time. The Shining's actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. So The Shining is my number one favorite horror film, and anyone who's seen this film, Carl, or anyone else watching in the comments, without giving anything away, there is a very, very clear Shining reference towards the end of this film. The way it's shot, and then so I was kind of laughing to myself because there's like a paneled door, and I was already laughing, sort of like picking up on the reference, but then something happens, and I was like, that is a blatant, almost shot for shot of The Shining. So I got a bit of a kick out of that, and it's nice to see. Some directors are more overt with this than other ones, but it's nice to see when a horror director clearly has his influences. And I think there's definitely influences of Sam Raimi in here, of some like shots of Kubrick in there too. Yeah. I'd also compare this to another horror film, which I would probably give the edge to this other horror film that I'm about to mention, but again, a very Marmite movie, sort of towards the end point. Hereditary. Phenomenal performances, some of the best examples of modern horror I've ever seen. But when you get towards the end, I know people, myself included, like, I love Hereditary, but I think the ending's fucking stupid. I genuinely, I think it's like absolutely ridiculous. but it's still a great film. Like, it's up until that point, it's a great film. And I think, for me, the ending of something, the payoff to something in a story, film, TV show, video game, whatever it happens to be, novel, is so important to me. You could have a film that's like 95% amazing, and if that 5% shits the bed at the end, that leaves the sour taste in your mouth. When you leave that movie theater, when you close that book, when you shut off that video game console, whatever it happens to be, that's sort of like your lasting impression of it. And then you kind of think back to the rest of it and you think, well, would I ever go back to watch this again? Knowing where it leads to and knowing that the ending's maybe not that great, is it worth revisiting? For some things like Game of Thrones, if someone said, oh, would you recommend watching Game of Thrones? I'd probably be like, no. Because if you ended at season 4, sure. But knowing where it leads to, it's like, well, what's the point? What's the point in getting invested in this when the ending's not going to be great? And I'm kind of in this camp. And also with films like this, there are some exceptions to this rule. Whenever you have a film that's based, like the whole crux of it, the reason that you're in that movie theater or watching this film in the first place is because maybe you've seen the trailer and you want to know what happens with this mystery. You're on board with it. Once you've seen a film like that and you've beheld the mystery and you've got to the end and the answer's been solved, maybe some answers have been solved, it doesn't really give you that incentive to watch it again. I suppose if you're showing that film to someone brand new who's never seen it, maybe, I think you can definitely get a kick out of that. A big film that I used to do that with in the horror genre, and it's probably one of the reasons that this franchise is so near and dear to my heart, is the Saw franchise, especially the first one, but even quite a lot of that franchise. Like, all of my friends, we used to watch them every single year, but I'd always be showing that first Saw film to newcomers because I'll never forget getting to the ending of that film and my jaw just hitting the floor. So I suppose there are some films like that with a twist ending or, a compelling intrigue to it, a compelling mystery, that you will show it to other people. And I guess that's where it's going to get its repeat viewings. But clearly people are going to this multiple times because this is probably already made its budget back. So its budget was 38 million. Usually they say marketing on top of that is another, double that. So we're looking at just shy of like 80 mil. It's made 70 so far, and this thing's been out like one weekend. So it's going to do just fine. And, good word of mouth, critical acclaim, it will make a lot more than that. And that seems to be the key with these horror films, like keep the budget really low and you guaranteed profits. And for some reason, big budget blockbusters can't seem to figure this out. I'm looking at Disney here, where all of their movies are like 300 mil, 350 mil, whatever it happens to be, plus the marketing on top of that. And these films need to make like 700, 800 mil to even break even. It's utterly ridiculous. Whereas the horror genre, they've got it down. Keep the costs down, and the the proceeds will come in after that. Let's see. Carl says, I agree with Red Letter Media on lighting and not being able to see anything. Yeah, actually, that's a great point. Yeah. Very, very dark scenes. It almost felt like they'd lit the scene naturally. And by naturally, I mean, like they turn all the lights off, they board all the windows up, and they roll the camera. So this is going to be, going back to Game of Thrones, this is going to be like that episode. Was it the Battle at Winterfell or something like that, where we were watching it at home and we couldn't see shit? We may as well have just watched like a pitch black screen, or just had like the picture turned off on the TV. And the showrunners were like, well, you just need to get like a better setup, like a better TV setup, or have your curtains closed. And it's like, it's got nothing to do with it. Like, you filmed it in a terrible fucking way. I guess I'm just used to horror films. Like, a lot of them are exceptionally dark, and not being able to quite make out everything in a very dimly lit room. So, but yeah, I can definitely see that being a criticism levied against it. Usually you have to be very creative with your lighting and add lighting into the scene that probably naturally wouldn't be there, but you do it anyway so that we can just see what's going on. Like case in point, something like the Battle of Helm's Deep or Titanic, where it would be sort of like pitch black nighttime, but we have this sort of like blue moonlit filter just to give some light to the scene. Brinsley says, I love new up-and-coming horror directors. Barbarian is kind of crazy for a first-time feature. There is that too, and I definitely think that Zach Cregger's going to... Well, he's already got a lot of notoriety off that. I think this film's definitely going to help his career. Let me just check if he's done another film in between Barbarian and this one, because I may have missed it if that's the case. No. Okay, yeah, so Barbarian was 2022, and yeah, this is his second feature. Apparently... this is scheduled for next year, but I don't see this seeing the light of day, but I could be wrong. He is directing an untitled Resident Evil reboot. I don't know if that's going to happen, but fair play to him, you know, like he's built his credentials up to this point. And then you've also got, oh God, is it Robert Eggers? I'm forgetting the director, The Lighthouse. Oh my God. Am I actually just like forgetting his name? I think I got it right, didn't I? Robert Eggers? I might just... Yeah, Robert Eggers. Jesus, just mind blanking on names, sorry. So we are seeing a lot of these new upcoming horror directors, definitely, that are just, you know, coming out with some very, if nothing else, very interesting, intriguing films. I'll say that. Brinsley says, oh, interesting you picked that up. I heard there's a few shots or scenes that are copied from other movies. And Carl says, yeah, I know what you mean about The Shining. Brinsley says Hereditary might be my favorite modern horror film. It's definitely up there for me as well. Unfortunately, I didn't like Midsommar. I thought that was an absolutely appalling attempt to try and recreate the shock cult-like value that The Wicker Man has, which is one of my favorite films. It's one of my favorite horror films. It's an outstanding film, the original Wicker Man. And it was just... It may as well have been a fucking remake of that film. And I realize... there was a remake of that film with Nicolas Cage, which we try and forget, don't we? But yeah, Hereditary is great. I've reached the level of acceptance with the ending to that film, I suppose. But again, I'm like, I felt like we could have done better with the ending there. But it's still a great film. There's some truly traumatizing shit in that film. If I'm thinking about sort of modern horror, what stands out in my mind, there's the scene where the mom of the family is like fucking banging her head on the is it like the attic door or whatever it is, like, yeah. And of course the infamous head out the window scene, which I must admit, you know, like a dark comedy, maybe I've just got a sick sense of humor. I think I genuinely had to pause the film from laughing so much at that scene. I sort of like my jaw was on the floor. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, but my reaction was just to laugh. And I kind of think the scene is intentional. You know, I think it is meant to elicit that kind of shocked humor response, maybe. Or maybe I'm just sick and twisted in the head like that. I don't know. Yeah, let's shed a tear. Let's shed 2 tears right there for the Game of Thrones ending. Dude, I bought so many of the Blu-ray box sets for those seasons. I think I owned the first 6 seasons of that on Blu-ray. And now I'm like, you know what? I am never going to go back and watch Game of Thrones. It is never going to happen. Ever in my lifetime. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I may as well fucking sell those box sets. But here's the thing. The ending of Game of Thrones was so universally reviled that no one's going to buy those box sets off me. So I'm fucked. Brinsley says Cregger said he also had a Batman script for DC where a random henchman manages to take out Batman he's trying to pitch to Gunn. I mean, that's sort of based off a storyline from the animated series. In fact, the episode is The Man Who Killed Batman, isn't it? I think. Or something like that. And it's just about this very sort of geeky, low-level crook who's... he almost reminds me of a Woody Allen kind of character, like very neurotic. And he just so happens to spin this yarn that he killed Batman, much to the Joker's distress, because, you know, we always think the Joker wants to kill Batman, but he doesn't. And we see it's a really fun episode. Actually, it's probably one of my favorites because we see the Joker just completely depressed. He's got his purpose in life is gone now. That the punchline to his jokes, that there's no jokes to be made anymore because Batman's gone. All the fun in his life's just gone, and Harley Quinn can't, persuade him or pep him up or anything like that. And they throw a funeral for Batman, which is wonderful. And I think if I remember rightly, I think Harley Quinn plays Amazing Grace on a kazoo. It's such a good episode. I'm going to have to go back through the Batman the Animated Series again. It's probably my favorite incarnation of Batman next to the Tim Burton ones. But yeah, good stuff. You're absolutely right, Carl. Yeah, Weapons is a dark comedy. And I think that would have been fine had the trailer have sold me on that, because then I would have been going in with a certain, preconceived idea as to what I can expect from it. And I feel like I ain't going to go so far as to say I was sold a lie, because the film lives up to what the trailer shows, I suppose, in terms of like the actual premise for the film, but more the tone. That's what took me out of it. And for the longest time, I did read beforehand that Zack had directed Barbarian, but I couldn't place Barbarian in my head. I feel like there were two horror films that came out around the same time that both start with the letter B. And I know that doesn't narrow it down at all. And I think in my head I was getting mixed up between the two, and I couldn't remember which one I'd seen. Don't ask me to try and remember what the title of that other film was, because I ain't going to remember it now. But I was trying to work out which one I'd seen. And then after the film had finished, sort of picking up on the tone of this, the multiple storylines, the multiple character perspectives, the non-linear storytelling, converging storylines, and then kind of a hokey ending. When I was watching this film, I thought, oh, I think Barbarian's the one with well, I won't spoil that in case anyone hasn't seen Barbarian, but the one where two people book like an Airbnb, two separate people book the same one for the night. That's the premise, and you don't know whether you can trust that other person. Let's see. Brinsley says Hereditary is haunting, just the part of being cursed from birth, and there's nothing you can do. Like most good horror movies, it stuck with me after watching. There's a lot you pick up when rewatching. That's fair, and I have gone back and rewatched it a few times. The performance as well. The main actress in it, who plays the mom, fucking outstanding. And this is just because the Academy hates horror films, but genuinely, the fact that I don't even think she was nominated. Correct me if I'm wrong, maybe she was, but I'm pretty sure they stay away from horror films. The fact that she wasn't nominated for Best Actress is a crime against fucking humanity, because she is a really great actress. Every single film you see her in, even if it's a bit part, she gives it her all. I think she plays the mom in Sixth Sense, if I remember rightly. And she does a phenomenal job in that as well. Brinsley, yeah, you said you didn't mind the ending either. I think you'll probably like Weapons. If you're sort of on board with the ending of something like that with Hereditary, then I think you'll probably be on board for this one too. I think Hereditary probably, the ending of that, it does take me out of it, and I did just go, oh, come on, we're doing that? That's a bit stupid. That's a bit ridiculous, isn't it? But like, I feel like that probably balances better in Hereditary than the ending of this one does. We sort of get the reveal in this film maybe just after the halfway point, or we can at least see very clearly in which direction it's heading. And as I mentioned, there are a number of visual cues in the film. Some TV programs that are on in the background, unlike the television set, which are hinting as to what's to come. It's all there to be picked up on. I'm actually kind of angry with myself that I didn't pick up on it before. There are some threads that I thought maybe it's leading to this. There's this very I'm not going to spoil anything. There's this very cartoony, colorful character that appears to a number of the characters in sort of like these nightmarish dream sequences. And that's another thing that I felt never really got explained as well. We know who this colorful character is throughout the course of the film, but like, why are the main characters dreaming about this person? Like, that's never explained. And I feel like that was probably just thrown in there for some cheap jump scares. Some of them are earned. Like, some of the jump scares, they come at the right moment. They're built up to. There's one scene in particular, which was one shot in particular, I should say, which is very, very surreal. And you could hear the gasps and like the anticipation of the audience, myself included. I thought it was a fantastically well directed scene and very, very eerie and surreal and creepy. I'm going to keep it vague. Someone is parked in a car, and this very perplexing, surrealist silhouette emerges from a door and comes towards the character. I'm just going to say that. I'm going to keep it so vague like that. And if you, yes, Carl, yes, absolutely. I was picking up on Pennywise vibes too. If you know that scene, it's a very, very well angled, very well framed shot, and I think honestly, it's surreal stuff like that that makes me more scared. Where someone's moving in a very like unnatural way, or it's just it's not so much supernatural in sense. It's just why is someone randomly walking like that? This is really creepy, and it's kind of unnerving me a little bit watching someone do this or act in this way. They're very unpredictable. Like the scariest part in The Shining for me is where towards the end of the film, Wendy's walking around the Overlook Hotel and she's seeing all of these like creepy ghostly images. And there's one of someone dressed in a fucking bear costume doing something to another guy. I didn't know that at the time when I first watched it, but the creepy fucking bear costume. That's it. You know, there's some scary shit in that film. There's the creepy old lady in the bathtub, which, yeah, was terrifying. There's Jack Nicholson trying to axe down a door. You know, all of this creepy shit. But for me, the most traumatizing thing in that movie was just someone dressed in this really surreal, creepy looking fucking costume. And it's stuff like that, I think, that sticks with me more with a horror film. But yeah, it was a very effective shot. And it elicited the response in the audience too. So this film does things right. It does things right, and until it doesn't. That's all I can say. Yeah, Carl says this isn't a spoiler, but why did they show a gun saying 217? Oh my god, you're right. Yeah. CGI like AK-47 in the sky, which said 217. You're absolutely right. I mean, I guess at that point you just have to hand wave it and say, oh, it's part of a potentially may or may not be part of a dream sequence, right? And I was looking at it. I remember looking at that. Yeah, thinking like, okay, it's a machine gun. The film's called Weapons. That's got to mean something. What does that mean? Are we dealing with like childhood, child soldiers or something? Like what are we doing with this thing? But yeah, great point. And there are some moments like that. Now that the film's finished and I'm looking back at it, I'm thinking, yeah, that really didn't lead to much. Was that just done for like a mystery box kind of thing, like misdirection, or yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. That scene is really ridiculous now. And there's not, to my knowledge anyway, there doesn't seem like there's loads of visual effects in this film, like crazy CGI or anything. But there was in that scene. So yeah, that's bizarre. Very, very bizarre. Marina says, thanks for being vague. Yeah, I heard the movement looks kind of unnatural or goofy, where some can find it funny. Yeah, it's just, if you have a character that just comes towards you and they're acting like all like weird and like twitchy, like, and it's done in a creepy way, like the lighting's just right and the shot composition, that shit freaks me out like completely. I got there's quite a few trailers before this film actually for some horror films coming up. I'll be damned if I can remember the names for any of them, but looks like there's I think it's James Franco's brother. And it's like this very, very twisted body horror film. I guess the film's saying where you become codependent or overly attached to your partner, and they're just taking that to the nth degree, and they're having their bodies like literally morph into each other like The Thing. That looks kind of interesting. I don't know if it'll be good. I don't know how you can do like a whole premise on that, but it looks like this very dysfunctional, violent relationship, and then the two sort of start to morph into each other, or they're just as maybe the film's saying they're just as bad as each other or something like that. Yeah, Carl says that the needles went nowhere as well. Yeah, and that happens twice. The first time I thought, okay, he's got it taken care of, and then the second time, yeah, that just, yeah. That, oh god, okay. I'm gonna not spoil this. I'm gonna keep this so vague, in the vain hope, vain being a key word here, needles, in the vain hope that Carl, you know what I'm talking about. When that happened, the needle scene, and then we started to see the actual motive from the person or people behind the disappearance of the kids and why they needed them. I thought that was going to have an effect on finishing everything off at the end. I'm trying to be so vague, guys. I'm trying. Carl, if you're not picking up on what I'm saying, I thought something related to the needles was going to have a knock-on effect with something else to explain why someone or something wasn't getting better, or yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna say I'm not gonna say anymore because I'm already straying. Yeah. I'm not going to go into spoilers. I'm going to leave it there. I've already talked for 40 minutes, and honestly, I think I've gone through everything I can within this film. Would I recommend it? What's on at the moment? Fantastic Four? Guys, my cinema bookings are absolutely barren at the moment. Next week, I've got This Is Spinal Tap, the 41st anniversary. There's a new Spinal Tap coming out. I don't know if you guys have seen the trailer for it, or they did. There's like a musical number of Stonehenge they did with Elton John. I'm kind of worried about that film. It's a sequel to a comedy more than 40 years after the fact, and can it recapture the magic? What have we got on at the moment? So we've got Freakier Friday, Fantastic Four. Let's see what else we've got here. The Bad Guys 2. Oh, there's Naked Gun, I suppose, if you're in the mood for a comedy. I've heard that's all right. Superman's just still, like the death throes of that film being on there. Bring It Back, Jurassic World Rebirth, Smurfs, How to Train Your Dragon remake, The Legend of Ochi, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Elio. Oh, fuck me. Yeah, there's nothing, is there? The Life of Chuck. That's based on a Stephen King. Yeah, there was a lot of Stephen King trailers that we got before this, actually. This film itself does feel very Stephen King. I think when I mentioned like the whole Stranger Things season 1 vibes, that was intentionally also based off of King's horror stories like that. And I think there is elements to that with this. Yeah, shit. Like, would I recommend going to see it? There's not really any other horror films on at the moment. Yeah, I'd say go and see it, make up your own opinion. It is going to be a complete Marmite film, though. I will say that. As I say, there's something that happens at the halfway point, and you're either going to be on board with it and love it and be swept up in it and laugh along with it in a very tongue-in-cheek, dark humor way, or you're going to go, we're kind of turning it into a bit of a comedy now. And you're either going to fall into either camp, right? So I was a little bit let down by this film. I'm not coming out of this film sort of, like crying or like, tearing my hair out like, oh God, like, this was everything I wanted it to be and it wasn't that. It was fine. It was a fine night at the movies because I don't go very often now. I must admit, like my free time is very, very limited, and you best believe the film better be special to get my ass in the cinema now. Unless it's a rescreening of a film, in which case I already know I like it and I just want to witness it on the big screen. So yeah, the next two films I've got booked there is This Is Spinal Tap and I've got Jaws. I think they've like remastered it or something for the 50th anniversary. There is a 3D showing as well, which just raises the specter of Jaws 3D. I'm not going to go and see it in 3D, but I do want to see it on the big screen because I never have. So yeah, probably one of Spielberg's best, isn't it? Carl says, I get what you mean. I think I understand the reason why the people or persons wanted the kids. It's just not clear. Yeah. You do have to sort of fill in the blanks yourself a little bit, probably reinforced by other stories that you've seen based on this subject matter, this supernatural subject matter before. Yeah, Fantastic Four is soulless, Galactus is wasted. Dude, I'm so checked out from Marvel. The last Marvel film I went to see, I think, was Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, and that did it for me. That was the nail in the coffin for me. And I've stayed away from everything else. I've been, reviewers that I trust. I've been following their reviews on it, so I know the absolute dire straits that Marvel's in at the moment, and the complete Hail Mary ditch attempt they've got at Avengers Doomsday next year, which, yeah, it's just laughable. Carl says Naked Gun is stupid but funny. I quite like comedies like that, though, like the really, really wacky, stupid ones. Something like Scary Movie. Oh God, this is embarrassing to admit. I even used to get a kick out of stuff like Date Movie and Epic Movie, which I probably wouldn't now, but I just had a very, very stupid, silly sense of humor growing up. So I probably would like the Naked Gun. I love the Leslie Nielsen ones. I think I've got the trilogy up there somewhere. Yeah, I love those films. They're great. And other comedies like Airplane and, those Hot Shots Part 2, like the sight gag kind of films. I don't know if the new Naked Gun will be like that. Maybe it has elements to that, but I'll probably check it out at some point. I don't know if I'll rush to the cinema to watch it at the moment, but it's nice to actually be able to laugh again and have a comedy film. It feels like it's been a long time, definitely. Brinsley says The Life of Chuck is a great short story, not strictly horror, but you can watch it on streaming. Oh, I didn't know it was on streaming. I got a trailer for it anyway. I assumed it was coming out at the cinema, and I think they are doing some smaller screens for it. What other horror films did I get? There was one with one of the, speaking of Scary Movie, one of the Wayans brothers, and it was like this American football horror movie. It sort of looks like when your obsession for something takes over. I guess like a little bit like Black Swan with Natalie Portman a little bit, how it becomes this very dark, twisted, sort of gruesome tale, showing how hard someone like pushes themselves, for their passion. It just looks like a very bizarre thing. It's like American football, but also a horror movie at the same time. Very strange. And speaking of Black Swan, actually, I'm getting all the links of these movies tonight. I'm doing well with this. There's a new Darren Aronofsky movie coming out. I'm quite a big fan of his work, actually. The last film I think he did was The Whale from a number of years ago with Brendan Fraser. So I watched the trailer for this. It almost looks like a Guy Ritchie movie. It's this like this, comedic mob movie, I suppose. You've got Matt Smith in there who plays this like London punk rocker, and it looks like he's swindled some gangsters or something. And you've got all these different gangsters. You've got I think he says like you've got like Arabic gangsters in there. You've got the ones from London. I think there's probably like Russians in there. There's always a Russian gangster in there too, isn't there? And it seems like all these people are trying to get their cut of the money. It could be okay. It looks very different from what I've come to expect from an Aronofsky movie, but it's, he's nothing but versatile, I suppose. So I might check that one out. What else did we get? Another Stephen King short story. I actually forgot this was based on Stephen King, but the Running Man remake, the Edgar Wright movie. Now, I love the Arnold Schwarzenegger Running Man. Is it true to the book? I have no idea. I've never read the book. Probably not. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it probably isn't. But it is a very, very fucking entertaining movie, and Schwarzenegger makes that movie what it is. This new one, the trailers honestly aren't doing anything for me. It could be good. I remember sort of being the same way with Baby Driver, seeing the trailers for that, thinking, oh, I'm not in the mood for that. I think I just went along to see it on a whim, or maybe I had to watch it for a review at the time, and Baby Driver became one of my favorite films of that year. I didn't see Edgar Wright's last film, though. Is it Last Night in Soho? I heard mixed to negative things on that, so I stayed away from it. But, I mean, it could be all right. It could be an entertaining romp, but I love that Schwarzenegger one so much. I'm just like, stop remaking shit. I don't like it. Stop remaking shit. It could be good, though. It could be good. And then, did I get any other trailers? I think that was probably it. They're the main ones that stuck out to me. There's one that's starring Ethan Hawke, which is sort of like set in the Arctic. Is it like called... I was like, it's called like Black Phone Booth or something. Black Phone 2? Never fucking heard of it. I've never even heard of Black Phone 1. And I think that was all the trailers that I got for this one. But yeah, I mean, there could be some good horror films on the way. Maybe horror films are going through a little bit of a renaissance now. It seems like they're as I guess, like picking up traction. There's more intriguing films that seem to be coming out, whether they're comedic or serious. So yeah. Let's see. Oh God, yeah. Carl says in Fantastic Four, there's a bit where Johnny, you know, Johnny Storm, the character who's famous for being a womanizer and a bit of a Lothario, says "sexy alien," and the Thing says, "Don't call her sexy." Fuck's sake! Yeah, Disney being Disney. That's why I'm done. I'm so done with Marvel. Like, I could not be more done. I'm done. I'm not seeing any more. I won't. I refuse. I might go and see a new Spider-Man film, but technically that's Sony. I know that Marvel are sort of affiliated with it, or they have some agreement worked out, but I might go and see a new Spider-Man film, but I sure as shit ain't going to go and see like Thor 5 or Avengers Doomsday. Who are the Avengers at the moment? Can anyone like give me the roster? Can anyone give me like the main lineup? I can give you the original lineup, you know, Cap, Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Hawkeye, you know, Black Widow. There you go. Boom. Good. I've got it. What's the lineup for the new one? You've got Captain Falcon, man, I guess. His movie bombed. I guess you've got Yelena, who's like the new Black Widow, I guess. Shang-Chi? Is he part of the Avengers? I don't know. It seems like it's been a few years since we've heard anything from Shang-Chi. Doctor Strange left with Charlize Theron, I think, the last film I went to see. And then if you've got female Black Panther, you've got She-Hulk, you've got female Hawkeye. Of course you have. Of course you have. Of course you have. I'm done. It's so desperate. Like, I couldn't even tell you the main lineup, and they're just going for cameos. Like, the whole film is just going to be, Ian McKellen's in it. You remember he played Magneto, and we've got Patrick Stewart in it again. You remember he played Xavier, which we already brought him back in Multiverse of Madness, and we killed him off straight away in this really shit way. Didn't like Scarlet Witch break his neck or something? Great. It's good to show contempt to your audience, I think. But Disney are great at doing it. Carl says Galactus looked and sounded good as well, but they do nothing with him. Yeah, it's what's his name? Innocent. It's not Ralph Innocent, is it? Is that his name? The guy from Game of Thrones who's got like the really, really deep, gravelly voice, or The Witch. There you go. That's a great horror film. Robert Eggers. Yeah, I'm fucking done with Disney, man. I'm so done. My one vestige of hope is this year is Zootopia 2. And that's a sequel. And I don't technically like Disney sequels. Like, I want them to do original stuff, but anyway, I think I'm probably going to round off. Let's see. Brinsley says, I'm interested in seeing the Avengers Doomsday, but I don't really rush out to see any superhero movies now. Yeah, honestly, Superman killed the cinema dead for me. It wasn't until Weapons where I thought, I'll take a trip back to the movies. Superman fucking killed it dead. I detested that film. That is genuinely probably in my top 3 worst comic book films I've seen. There's other films that are probably structurally like worse. I'm looking at stuff like Josh Trank's Fantastic Four, which is that film just felt unfinished. That felt like it should have just been cancelled and canned. It felt like I watched an unfinished product, which it probably was. But then you've got like entertainingly bad superhero films like Halle Berry's Catwoman, which is like hilarious to watch if you're drunk or something, you know, and it's just really memeable. But I just thought Superman was atrocious. And that's your foundation for a new universe, a new cinematic universe. I'm like, really? We have heard, though, that the Batman 2 is moving ahead. A script's been done. Apparently, it's moving forward and it's going to be in pre-production at the beginning of next year for an October 2027 release. I'm going to be an old fucking man watching the Batman Part 2. And except I'll probably be in the grave by the time Batman 3 comes out, if it even sees the light of day. I still think we'll probably get the Batman Part 2. Warner Brothers will be watching the numbers very, very closely to see if it does well. If it tanks, then they'll probably reboot with James Gunn's. Here's the thing, though. If it does really well, what do we do? Because James Gunn is going to want his Batman, and I'm worried that if it is a success, then Warner Brothers will just go, well, audiences want more of Robert Pattinson's Batman, so let's just bring him into the DCU. I'd be like, no, fucking get your hands off it, James Gunn. I'm really looking forward to that film already. Like, the Penguin was outstanding. It just makes me sad because the Penguin and Andor, for example, are like the two recent TV shows I can think of, even sort of like blending it in with like TV shows and films, with the strongest writing I have seen in a long, long time. And it's just like, why can't we just get projects like that with like real talent behind the writing, and the characters and the performances are great. So good. I'm gonna have to see if I can pick up Andor. Actually, it has earned my hard-earned money to buy that. I don't know if they've only bought it out in 4K. I don't have a 4K, but if they've released it on Blu-ray or something, I'll definitely pick it up. And I want to do the same for the Penguin as well. Because here's the thing: even if they cancel the Batman 2, which I hope they don't, but even if they cancel the Batman 3 after that, we've always got the Penguin. It exists. That TV show, they can't do anything to that TV show. They can't take that TV show away from us. It happened. It exists. And it's outstanding. So, yeah, it's the same with Andor. Like, we are about to get a slew of Star Wars shit for the next probably my lifetime, which is really depressing to think about. We're getting Ahsoka 2. We're getting all the Dave Filoni slop. We're getting the Ryan Gosling Starfighter movie. Maybe that's going to get cancelled. Rey movie, which I don't think is probably happening now. I do love, by the way, that they've came out and said that, yeah, that Rian Johnson trilogy ain't happening, which is hilarious because I have spoken to people over the years and saying that trilogy is never going to happen. It's never going to happen. And they were adamant, like, oh, yeah, the Last Jedi was a complete tour de force. Of course it's going to happen. They're just waiting for the right time. I'm like, it ain't fucking happening. Star Wars is in a really bad way. But we got Andor. And that's what I mean. Like, they can't take that show away from us. We've got it. And it, we had the beginning, season 1. We had season 2. You could probably go into Rogue One as well. I know that was technically Disney. But season 1 and 2 of Andor is complete. And it's wonderful. So, yeah, hold on to TV shows like that. Christopher Nolan, very, very recently, is telling and, encouraging everyone to get physical media. I completely agree. Get physical media. I know it's handy to rent that movie or download that movie or get a digital download or whatever it is. I understand the necessity of that. But when all's said and done, when that internet connection goes down, whenever you've got something that happens, or whether they outright edit movies on streaming services, which Disney do, like, you've got that physical media and you've got it. These video games where it's like, digital download only, if you get locked out of your system, you can't play that game. So, the good old days of having a console, of having a game that you can pop in, like, I want to play Simpsons Hit and Run on PS2, and I'll fire up my PS2 and I put that fucking disc in the disc tray, and guess what? It comes on and I can play it still. Yeah, we need to get back to basics, I think, with some of these things. Buy physical media. If it's something you've watched and it's something you love and it's something that you'd rewatch or replay or reread, do yourself the service of buying it if you can afford it, because I think it's important. Let's see. Carl says, if you do a spoiler chat on weapons, I'll have more to say. I might do. If there's an audience for that, I might do like a little follow-up video. But I've sort of kept it. I'd just be repeating myself, essentially, just saying the same things. Like, I thought it was a little bit hokey towards the end and all the specifics that come with it. Let's see. Yeah, Brinsley, I totally agree with you here, man. I know everyone hates origin stories, but I think it hurts the movie if it just jumps straight into the story and everyone knows Superman. Yeah, I agree. I think some films can handle it well if they refer to it, but I think sometimes you just lose like a core foundation of that character if we don't see it, or if we don't have that emotional connection to it. I had the same exact thing with Tom Holland's Spider-Man films. And I know he kind of got his Uncle Ben moment, didn't he, with Aunt May in No Way Home. But even then, like the whole Uncle Ben thing was meant to have still happened. We don't see it. We don't feel the emotion of that, and it's such it is the crux of Spider-Man's character. And you know, James Gunn, just like the absolute desecration of all the positive messages of his biological parents, it just yeah, kills me. Brinsley, watch The Penguin. There you go. That's your homework. You've got, well, I was going to say you've got a week. You've got as much time as you want, but do watch The Penguin. It's bloody outstanding. And we've got a long old wait until 2027. We've got a long wait until we start getting trailers or information, or we know who the villain's going to be or whatever for the Batman 2. So yeah, to tide you over, you've got The Penguin, but it will get you insanely hyped for the Batman 2, which is no bad thing. But it's just a long old wait, isn't it? Carl says, do a Benny Hill music for the edit. Yes, I agree. And you've rented Space Cop, which is okay. Well, I don't think I've actually ever seen Space Cop, to be honest. So yeah, maybe that's one I should watch at some point. Anyway, I've gone over an hour. I need to do some piano practice tonight. That's going to be the rest of my night now. The next 2 hours, I'm going to be sat back there over the ivories. So yeah, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone that's tuned in tonight. As always, keeping the conversation going. Like this is what I love, being able to chat with you guys. It genuinely makes my night. So yeah, thank you to all of you who's tuned in. If you haven't seen on my channel, and if you do care to follow these videos, I'm currently working on a Hobbit edit at the moment. Now, I've already done a Hobbit edit. I am remaking it using some new tools, and I released a little clip last night using some voice AI technology that I'm getting to grips with, and I'm quite pleased with the results, actually. So if you're interested in that, there's probably going to be a lot more Hobbit edit, progress videos, I suppose is the best way to say it, update videos coming out over the next couple of weeks, because I'm trying to give myself the task, if I can, of getting at least the theatrical cut done within the next few weeks before I go back to full-time work. So yeah, the pressure's on to get it done amongst everything else I have to do in the week. But I'm doing that. And if you're in it for the movie reviews and the live streams, I will be back with Dale on Wednesday for the next Studio Ghibli review, which is going to be Ocean Waves. So yeah, thank you to everyone who's tuned in. Hope you have a great rest of your night, and I will catch you on the next stream. Take care, everyone.